and welcome back. So here's a bunch of these pendants that I've wire wrapped with some beads too, and then I went ahead and top coated some of these marble pendants as well. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you in a little closer and show you what I've done. Okay, so here's all these top coated, and the product I like to use is the Sculpey Gloss Glaze here, and I bought this. It was $3.99 at Hobby Lobby, and of course you can use your coupon on this, or you can just pay in full. I don't think it goes on sale. I haven't bought it in a long time, but I've had this for at least 5 years, and it's full and it's still liquid and it works perfect. So I highly recommend this Sculpey Gloss Glaze here. So this is how it comes out, just a really nice glaze, and it gives it that sheen, and then it also pulls all those colors so that you can really see them clearly. It does work extremely well. I like it very much. Okay, so here's this batch all top coated, and by the way, I just did one coat on these. You can add multiple coats, but I'm a busy crafter and I like to see results, so I just went ahead and did one. And now these in comparison have not been top coated, and I wanted to leave some matte like I said in the previous video, just because I really like this natural look here. This is actually upside down. This will be the top of the pendant, and then I'm going to have dangles on this one. So let's go ahead and get into the tribal ones here. This one, let me back you up just a little bit. Okay, this one is that really big one I painted if you watched the previous video, and I was worried that it's a little too big. Here's my hand. Let's see, here's a lighter in comparison. I like to light a candle every morning and pray for a different person every day, so I always have my lighter handy. But this is how big this piece is. It's quite big, but I love how it came out, and I think it's just fine. It's a real statement piece for sure. And I went ahead and did my wire wrap for the top of the pendant, and I have a video on how to do this. I will link it to the end of this video. Okay, so that's the biggest one, and I just did this stone bead, and then I did some gold and copper and brown glass beads, and then I also teach how to wire wrap crystals like this as well, so I will link that as well for you. So there's the biggest. Now this piece of clay is very flexible. I don't think I baked it long enough. I think I probably should have put it in for another 10 minutes, and it's really wonky. So what I'm going to do with this piece is keep it, and then I've got a hole at the bottom of this one, and I just haven't had a chance to do the dangle yet, but I wanted to show you. And then I just did the wire working, which I'm going to show you today. And this is how the back looks. I always like to do a little spiral with the end of my wire so that the back doesn't catch on your clothes, because this is a finished piece. I will not be doing anything else to it. And then I'll show you how and why to get those little bends in there as well. I'm going to go ahead and keep this piece because it's a little wonky, like I said. So I'm just going to keep it and wear it and see how it does, but I don't feel right selling it because I can't get it to straighten up. So because of that, when you go ahead and make these, I'm going to turn this sideways. You're going to want to make your clay pretty thick so that it's stable, okay? And you're going to want to make sure that it's bent correctly when you bake it. So I did have a couple issues with this batch due to those things. So now here's the top, my wire wrapped bezel, I guess you could call it. And then I did a wire wrapped crystal and a wire wrapped stone, and then just a simple wire wrapping around the middle of this pendant. And this one's really fun. I think this one came out very, very nice. I like it very much. And once I get the necklace completed, some of these will be gifts and some of these will be going in my Etsy shop, and I will definitely do an announcement when the time comes for that. So today I took a bunch of pieces of wire and it's got little loops. If you can see right there, there's just one piece of wire going through all these beads with a loop at the bottom and a loop at the top. Very, very simple, basic design here. And then I did some little beads at the top, and I did the little spirals at the top and the bottom, and I just wired this piece on to this piece of clay. And of course I've got to do my gosh darn it, my pendant part, the wire wrap on here, okay? So that piece still needs that, but I wanted to show you this. And this is the one we're going to be doing today. This is from an old piece of jewelry that I tore apart, or I think it's from an old piece that I tore apart, an old bracelet. So I've got a little hole here and a little hole here, and I'm going to attach this to this pendant here with wire, just like so. And it's the same exact concept as this, so you'll see exactly how to do it, and then you can mix and match your stuff, okay? So a couple more here. Here's just a real sweet little one with some copper wiring on it, and I matched the copper with the copper, and then I just did 4 beads and a lot of interesting wire work. I like this one very much. I like them all. What am I saying? So now this one, it's a little low, and I off-centered it on purpose. You really do. I bent a lot of the wire because that actually pulls your work together, and I've shown that in previous videos, and I'll show you again today. But it just makes everything tight, and I think that's why I had such a problem with this one, because I did the bending to pull all my work together, and I think it made this one a little wonky. So anyway, these stones are jasper, and then of course these little beads are glass, and I just really like this too. In the last video I show you how to make and paint these little tribal beads pendants here. And then here, last but not least, this one has a hole in the top for the pendant that I just haven't had a chance to do yet. And then I've got 3 holes on the bottom, and I'm gonna need to, excuse me, hand drill those out a little bit, because in the baking and handling process they got closed a little bit. No big deal, just take a little hand drill and twist it through there. Very tiny gauge. And then I just did a bunch of wire wrapping on this one, and I used a smaller gauge of wire because I wanted to do an awful lot of wire wrapping on this one. And then I just of course added the beads. So this batch is all quite similar to each other, but I really have enjoyed making this. So let me go ahead and grab my wire and everything, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so here I've got a couple different gauges of wire. This really thin one is 24 gauge gold, and this one is 20 gauge gold colored. Okay, it's just gold colored. Now the higher the number, the thinner the wire. We're going to go ahead and go with the 20 gauge for this piece here. And then what I've also got is I've got some round nose pliers. You've got to have these. You've got to have these. They're a must. And then I've got these long nose pliers here, and they're very soft on the inside, which sometimes I like, sometimes I don't. These have a built-in cutter, which I like to go ahead and just use that. I like the 2-in-1. Now I've got these curved, serrated, edged kind of needle nose pliers here, and I really love these for tucking wire, because when you're doing all this wire work, especially the top part, which I don't think I'm going to show you that today, I'm just going to show you this part because I've covered this in a previous video. You want to really get that wire tucked in to where you can rub your hands around there and not get poked at all. And then these acrylic covered pliers are good for straightening your wire and not scratching it up. which I really don't care about scratching up my wire. Now if you're using a wire like this black one, this is just like some kind of like acrylic plastic coating on this wire, and it matters very much when you start manhandling this wire with pliers like this. It will scratch this black finish off, and it's a pain in the rear, and I still do it. And the way that I resolve that is I just grab a little bit of black paint and dab it on here, because I cannot have my clients getting poked, okay? And I don't want that to limit me. So just grab a little acrylic paint and paint your scratch mark, and you're good to go. Also, I've got this little mix of brown and gold and copper beads. These are actually large seed beads, and I've spoken about these before. I don't like to chase around teeny tiny seed beads, so I like to use these in my work. They're a little bit bulkier, so you do have the option of using these or smaller. They're easier for me to get my hands on. Okay, so this wire here, I don't want to scratch it, so I'm going to pull it out. And like I've said before, if you don't hold on to this, it's going to completely unwind on you. Now here's the beauty of these. You just come in and straighten that out, and it straightens your wire right out. And you can really mess with it good and get it to work, okay? And then if you've watched my videos, you know I do not measure. I'm going to pull out at least a foot of this, probably more like 14 to 15 inches. And give it a whack while I'm holding this, of course. Want to just go ahead and put that in there right away, otherwise you're going to have a mess on your hands. Now also, I've got my trusty can. This is my favorite candy in the whole world. Dark Roca, and it's dark. I don't like the milk chocolate. But the reason I have this, see, I get so sidetracked. Here's my metal scraps and all my scrap junk in here, so that your doggies and your kitties and your children don't get poked by all your wire scraps. I always have that handy. I'm very trained to use it. Now you want to take your round nose pliers, these ones, and you want to take an end of your wire and go ahead, and I like to make it pretty small, like maybe, I don't know, 1/2, 3/4 of an inch in. You actually want it pretty close to the end, and you just want to yank that around pretty good until it meets itself. And this is personal choice. You can get the smallest. The smaller you go, the tighter your little loop will be, okay? And then I usually switch up. This is kind of a bear here. You have to do this first one now. Usually what I like to do is get it into my acrylic pliers. Just anchor that in there, and then you're just gonna, and this is takes a little work to get it started. But you just want to start wrapping that wire and keeping it flat the whole time as you do your spiral. I'm sure there's many other ways to end your wire, and I will be researching that. But I like this look, so I'm perfectly happy with this look right here. So you want to get your spiral, and of course it serves two purposes. It serves the purpose of decoration and protection for your clients. Okay, this is quite a long piece of wire, which is fine because I've got a nice long pendant here, so I can really put a lot of beautiful wire working on. Okay, so now what you want to do is kind of bend this back a little bit, like so. And the reason why is that frees you up now. Can you see that? That frees you up to be able to start wrapping your wire. And it's okay if it's not perfect. I never worry about perfection. Life is too short. If I have to worry about it looking perfect or being perfect, I don't want to do it, like I've said. Okay? And just start wrapping, and then you'll be able to manipulate this later. You're going to have to actually mess with it, but not right now. So I went ahead and did just a few lines, see that? And then I'm going to add some interest. So I'm just going to take 3 beads, and you've got to hold this. It's kind of tricky. And I don't care about the mix. I never care about the mix. I grab what lands in my hand, and that's what goes on there. I'm a very organic artist. I wasted so many years on trying to get everything perfect and just so, and it stopped me from doing a lot of stuff. And I just refuse to do it now. I sound like a broken record. Okay, so now I went around again. Now I've got my beads in place, and I'm gonna go ahead and wire this on here, and I hope that this, yep, good. I got lucky. Sometimes you can run into your wire being too big, so keep that in mind. My piece is not centered on here, okay? And I don't care. If you care, you're gonna wanna make sure and center that, okay? I just don't care. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in underneath that little charm, and I'm going to pull this wire as tight as I can, and I'm going to wrap a couple times underneath just to get this wire to travel from the top of here to the bottom of here, because if you go straight down without wrapping it around a little bit, it's going to look bad. It won't look as good, okay? So then you want to go ahead and take it through that bottom hole. You just need to have everything secure, and to get it secure, you've got to do those extra passes, okay? So that's really the main reason. Look is secondary. Functionality is first and foremost. Also, you want to keep in mind when you're doing this, of course, this really goes without saying, where's the top of your pendant? You know, keep that in mind, because sometimes I will forget. I'll start to wire wrapping and getting all into it, and I won't pay attention to that. So there's my little design, and now I've got this much wire left over. See, I took 14-15 inches. I took a lot of wire, and I spent a lot of it up here, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I've got to have enough to wrap that spiral, and I kind of want a big spiral, so I'm going to go ahead now. I want a few more beads. I think I can have enough. This is where it just gets a little weird, and you can measure all day long, and you're still going to run into trouble. Sometimes, at least I am. Maybe you could get it dialed in better. But you still, once you start wrapping, it's like, then you would be like, oh, okay, I'm spending 1.5 inches, I'm spending 3/8. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I refuse. Okay, so I have enough, so I'm going to come around one more time. And then what I like to do is, I like to try to tuck this last wire under my last pass without scratching my pendant, and it's very tricky to do this part. And then you just want to grab your pliers and pull that in, snug it up. This is not the easiest kind of work to do, but I love it. So that just gives it a little extra security. Now see how this is getting twisted? It's because of the wire working. So when you make your pendants, learn from my mistake and maybe wire wrap a little looser, but when you tighten it up, you could have the same issue. Plus, this is how thick this pendant is. You might want to make these just a little bit thicker. I'm newer at making this kind of art, so I am kind of bumbling along, but I don't care. I'm not going to let mistakes stop me. I'm going to learn from them, and I'm going to keep going, and then every batch I do will be better. And you may find that you do a batch that is not sellable, but it's a small investment for your education. You see, it's worth it to me. I never let mess ups stop me from doing it, and I used to, and I'll tell you what, I could be a lot further right now in my artistic life had I not let fear of messing stuff up stop me. Okay, so now see how these are sticking up a little bit, these little spirals, especially this one. You don't want that, and then you can come in and you can kind of smash down. It's under this wire here, so, and then you've got the beads on there, so you can kind of come in and just kind of smush that all down, and then you can come in and smush that down too. And it's never going to be absolutely perfect, and it's not meant to be, but it is meant to be straight. So can't get away from that one. This this piece right here was made with a thinner gauge wire, and you may want to start with a much thinner wire. It's easier to maneuver, but it's also weaker. It breaks easier, so there's pros and cons depending on how you want to do it. But I think it will hold up beautifully. I had to go, if you can see the little marks right there, I had to wrap it a few times because it's so thin that you really want to secure it. The thicker wire is not that big of an issue. This work is so tight now that what I can do to tighten this is I can come in with my acrylics and I can push down those wires without squiggling them, okay? And you can tighten up your work that way. And then here's how the back of the pendant looks. You've just got this real pretty wire wrapping. This can get caught on stuff, but if you're wearing it against a single shirt, I would guard against wearing a buttoned shirt with these, which I never wear shirts that button up, hardly ever. So a nice sweater or any kind of a top with no buttons, you're going to be just fine with these pendants, okay? You're going to be just fine. Now, the way to do the squigglies, let me pick a piece so that I can show you. Okay, you always want to use your rounded, and I've gone over this in the past, but I want to go over it real quick. You always use your rounded, because if you use something like this, you're going to snap your wire, and all that time you just spent making that is lost, and you're really mad. At least I am. So you want to reach in here and get a hold of one wire, and you just want to give it a squeeze and give it a twist, okay? And it's as simple as that. And that's how I got all these cool little twists. This wire here is the 24 gauge. It's very thin. You cannot manhandle this like you can the 20 gauge. You want to just be gentle. So you just come in one at a time. See that? Just give it a nice little twist. And if you keep twisting the same wire, you'll of course untwist it. But I will do that. I'll do the same wire 2 or 3 times sometimes, depending on what I'm making, okay? I do the same thing when I wire wrap my boho beads, and it really brings a decorative element to those as well. So that's how you make these, and I will link how to do the wire wrapping of the little noose wrap and the wire wrapping of the crystals. It's very easy to do. It's just a little time consuming, but it's really not bad at all. I'll go ahead and link those below, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'd love it if you would click like for me. I am trying to get the YouTube algorithm to recognize my videos, and they do that through likes, so if you would do that, I would so much appreciate it. And if you want more tutorials from me, I've already got tons of them on my channel, so please subscribe for the past ones and the future ones. I try to upload every Saturday. I'm pretty consistent, and sometimes I mess up because we get holidays and life and that kind of stuff, but I really do work hard to upload every Saturday at a minimum, okay? So thanks for joining me today.